Okay, so good day, everyone. I hope you are doing wonderful, and I hope that you can see this that I am showing you here. I'm just taking my time to let you see every part of this before I start to explain what it is about. So just take a good look and then just enjoy as I tell you the journey that went into creating this art piece today. I really love it. I mean, for the month of May, I have been doing an art journaling challenge called Messy May, and you can find out more about it on Instagram. And honestly, I have been loving all the prompts so far in the challenge. I really have been loving them. But my favorite prompt so far out of all of the days that the Messy May Art Challenge has been going on, my favorite prompt so far is this one. And this one was done today. And in a few minutes, I will let you know why this one is actually my favorite. So just take another good look. I'm trying to go as close as possible to give you close-ups of each section of this art spread. I really love this one. Honestly, I have seen myself grow in terms of this type of art since this month. I have really seen myself do some things that I never thought I would have done. But I'm telling you, I am in love with this piece. Okay, so the reason I love this art journaling piece that I created today so much is because today's prompt in the Messy May challenge, the Messy May art journal challenge, today's prompt was identity. So what we were supposed to do, we were supposed to create 3 background pages that represent an aspect of our identity, right? So, whatever 3 aspects of our identity we choose, we were supposed to create 3 background pages that we think best represents 3 different parts of our identity. And further on, the person that was leading today's prompt even went on to say that you could even do 4 and so on. So any amount of background pages you would have wanted to do, you were free to do. But the prompt specifically said 3. Anyways, so after I read what the prompt had to say, and then after I listened and watched the video of the person who was leading today's prompt, and I saw how she interpreted the prompt, I gained inspiration from how I saw her do her take on the prompt. And the inspiration I gained from her led to me thinking in this way. So, as I said before, the prompt for today's Messy May challenge was identity. And so we were supposed to create 3 background pages, and each of those 3 background pages were to represent each each of 3 parts of our identity. So this was how I decided to do mine. So in this season, the first background I made was a background filled with ripped paper. So what I did, the first thing I did when I came to the page in this book was that I pasted down a lot of ripped paper and brown paper bags and old book pages, different color book pages like white book pages, brown book pages, brown paper bag, and that type of paper folder. I don't remember what color is it. I think it's beige. I pasted all of those type of papers that I have. I pasted some of them, even old hymnal pages. I pasted down some of them on the empty book leaf that I had opened my journal to in order to do this artistic spread on identity. So that was my first background. A background that was filled with just torn paper, torn white book pages, torn brown book pages, torn brown paper bags, torn patty paper bags. If you're a Jamaican, you would know the paper bags I'm talking about that they normally put our patties in. I had one of those old bags and I tore it up and I added it to that particular background. So that is a part of what you can see here. So everything that is here was what I put down first, right? So it was a book page that was looking like this, right? When I opened my journal to do this artistic spread, the book page was looking like this. And then what I did was I pasted torn book pages and brown paper bags, torn up brown paper bags, and torn up brown paper bags and all of those old hymnal pages that I had and so on. Some of those I took and I just glued them all over all over a page that was looking like this, right? And so that was my first background. So remember that the prompt said that we were to create 3 different backgrounds, and each of those 3 different backgrounds would represent a part of our identity. So the first background I decided to put down was a background of just ripped paper, right? Ripped paper, stuff that we would normally throw in the trash, like the paper bags and the torn up book pages and everything. I decided to take those trash, take those stuff that we would normally throw away, that we would normally class as garbage, right? I decided to take all of those and use them to create a background. So I moved the page from looking like this to looking like here. So at first, all you could see when I was finished pasting, at first all you could see was a page that had just ripped paper and all of those things. That was all you could see at first. And the reason I decided to do that background first is because that background represents the part of my identity where I have to learn to look at things differently, right? I have to learn to look at things in different ways. I have to learn to see the purpose in painful situations, right? And so the Lord has been taking me on a journey and has been teaching me that, I have been learning to see the value in things that we would otherwise throw away. I have been learning to dig deep into situations that were intended to kill me and frustrate me. And God has been teaching me and helping me to see the purpose in those situations and to turn around and use those situations to build me. So I am currently learning that. And so that's what that first background represented for me. I could have thrown away those papers. I could have said I wanted nothing to do with them. I could have classed them as garbage. But I decided not to. I decided to use those papers now and use the creativity that the Lord has given me to turn those papers into purpose, to turn those papers into a beautiful masterpiece. So the same way I was able to turn those ripped papers, those old paper bags, those patty bags that after we finish eating the patty out of it, we would normally throw it away and want nothing else to do with it. I took those and I created an artistic masterpiece background that was a beauty to behold when I finished with it. I was so amazed. And that's what I am learning in life right now. I am on a day-to-day journey learning to take the situations in my life that I would rather to throw away. God is helping me to see the purpose in those situations. The situations in my life that I would rather to run away from. God is helping me to see the purpose in those situations. God is helping me to see the story and the testimony and the masterpiece in those situations. And that has been really encouraging me to continue. So every time I see this spread and I see this background masterpiece that I have at the back, I will remember that. I will remember that. It will remind me of that. The same way I took these torn papers that would have otherwise been trash. The same way I took these trashes and I turned them into a beautiful background masterpiece. Hallelujah. Is the same way the messy situations in my life. It's the same way the painful situations in my life. It's the same way the situations in my life that are designed to kill and frustrate me. It's the same way that God can turn those situations into beautiful masterpieces that are pregnant with purpose. So that's a huge part of my identity right now. That's a huge lesson that I am learning right now. And so that first background I put down reminded me of that. Now, after I put down that background, right? That background with the different torn papers, I then put down this background. So I'm trying to give a close-up in the sun so that you can see it. So the second background I put down is this one here that has the green and purple and yellow paint on it. And the reason I put down this one is because normally this is a type of abstract painting, right? And normally whenever I do abstract painting, I like to stay with the colors that I love. The reds and the pinks and the yellows and the blues together and so on. Those colors, those everyday colors that everybody loves to see together and so on and so forth. I never normally like to venture out of my comfort zone when it comes to color sometimes. But for this one, I decided to use this particular background as my second background to represent a second part of my identity, because I am learning to step out of my comfort zone in this season. I am learning to use the color combinations that I wouldn't normally use. I am learning to see and create beauty in the places where I wouldn't normally go to see and create such beauty. I'm learning to just go with God's flow. I'm learning to slow down and create what wants to be created. And so this second background that I placed down, which is this painted background, is me basically stepping out of my comfort zone. It's me basically doing something, creating an art piece with colors that persons may not normally jump to use. I mean, I don't normally see persons using purple and green together. But I decided to come out of my comfort zone and try it. And I'm really, really loving it. And so this particular background represents the God's visionary section of my identity, right? There are times when God will call you to do something, and what He calls you to do is not seen by anybody else. And you look as if you are crazy, you know. I mean, I may look crazy right now using all of these colors, you know. But I am learning to be different. I am learning to see things differently. I am learning to step out and try things and allow God to teach me something that staying in my comfort zone could never have taught me. So, you know, this background represents this God's visionary season of my identity. You know, this season where I see different ways of doing things. You know, this season where I decide to look at color a different way. This season where I decide to try things and see how it goes. You know, this season where I decide to just follow God blindly. Because to be honest, mixing these colors, when I was mixing colors like these, anytime I mix colors like these and I do these type of spreads, I'm literally creating art blindly, because there are times when I put down these type of paints on the page in these type of color combinations, and I'm like, while I am going through the process of creating these arts, I'm telling you, sometimes I feel like I want to tear up the art piece and dash it away, because, sorry, for those of us who are not Jamaican, dash it away means to throw it away. So sometimes I feel like I want to tear up the art piece and throw it away or discard it in the bin, because it doesn't look like how I want it to look. And you know, I had that thought while I was creating this purple and green and yellow art piece. At one point when I was creating it, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't like how that look. I don't like how that look. But I continued and I continued to add paint and I continued to add paint and I continued to add paint until I reached to an art piece that I really, really liked. And right now, it's a beauty for me to behold. So I am happy I continued through the process. So whenever this background is reminding me that whenever God puts you into different territory, sometimes it's going to feel like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But when you trust Him and you follow Him, you will see everything coming together in the end, and it will be a beautiful masterpiece that will blow your mind. So that's what this background represents right now in my life. That time when God is teaching me to be His visionary. God is teaching me to see things through His eyes. And God is teaching me to just follow Him blindly, one step at a time, and just enjoy the process and let what wants to be created be created. God is teaching me to use the colors in combinations that I wouldn't normally use, and to just step out and, you know, just be different, be unique, and embrace that and enjoy it and let it glorify the Lord. So that is the reason why that's the second background I created for this identity prompt. Now, the third background is this. So these two, well, I could say it's the third background, or I could say it's the third and the fourth, depending on how you look at it. So after I put down the ripped paper background, then I put down this background. I then proceeded to put down first, before I went to put down this and this and this and these, I put down these so that they can add some beauty to my page. And so after I placed down these, I went ahead and I placed down this, and then I placed this underneath this, and then this underneath this. So the order in which it should be for me is this background first, then this background second, then these two backgrounds, then this now is the main focus, right? Because that's a photo of me, and this spread is representing my identity. So the reason I decided to put down this as well as this as my third background element is because, in addition to the fact that in this season I am learning to see the purpose in trash and mess, and in addition to the fact that in this season, as shown by this painted piece, I am learning to see what it means and experience what it means to be God's visionary, I am also learning to live each day and live daily and live my life being anchored and directed by these 3 steps. So I am learning that whenever situations face me, I am learning to go through the whole process. I am learning to reflect on the whole process. And then I am learning to come back and share and say God was able to. So I have been given that mandate by the Lord, and He is teaching me to do it. To be honest, I don't get to do it every day, but I am growing and learning. But this is a huge part of my identity, and it is something that I want to do better in and dig even deeper into. And then this is another part of my identity now that was developed, I think, in this month, either in this month or last month, but one of them. This I Am God's Visionary prayer method. Wait, I think I developed a prayer method to this last month, and then since doing Messy May, it branched out into what you are seeing here. So this is here because I want to also focus on this prayer method, especially in this season of my life. So all these 3 backgrounds that I placed down, the ripped paper background, which is number 1, the painted background, which is number 2, and then these 2, which is number 3, right? I layered all these 3 backgrounds on top of each other. And these backgrounds represent 3 important parts of my identity. They are 3 important things that I am really focused on learning in this season. You know, it's like over and over, God just brings me back to these things. He just keeps bringing me back to them. And so I was just happy to combine it all in this art spread. And I am just so grateful for this prompt that allowed me to be able to design like this. So that's why I created this spread. And so, you know, every time I look at this spread, it will definitely be an encouragement to me, you know, to keep going. You know, when situations hurt me, it will be an encouragement to me to look for the purpose in that situation. Just like how I looked for the purpose in the ripped paper and I used it to make a masterpiece. Hallelujah. When situations hurt me, and you know, I can look for the purpose in it and use it to create a masterpiece. So that is encouraging me to do that. This spread is encouraging me to continue on the God's visionary journey. This spread is encouraging me to live the lifestyle of prayer that a God's visionary is supposed to live. This spread is encouraging me to go through the whole process, reflect on the whole process, and come back and share and say God was able to. And so that's what caused me to design this spread today. And also the person who led today's prompt, she gave us some questions that we could do. One of those questions was, who are you? And so this is what I wrote for who are you as it relates to me. And another of those questions was, what makes you come alive? And so this is what I wrote regarding what makes me come alive. And so this entire spread is reminding me of who I am, especially who I am in this season. And it's already an encouragement to tell me to keep going, keep being God's unique child, and I know that whenever I go forward and I need encouragement, I know that looking at this and even remembering this identity spread that I created to remind me of who I am, hallelujah, and who I am in God, I know that it will continue to keep me encouraged. So that's the reason why this spread is my favorite of all the prompts I have done this month. That's because I had to dig so deep into myself and meditate on things that the Lord has brought me through and so on and so forth in order to create it. And every part of this spread means something to me, every single part. And I am just grateful I was able to create it. Enjoy.